A major NASCAR story broke today as every single NASCAR team owner collectively decided to not show up for a meeting with NASCAR over revenue sharing talks in regards to the new TV deal. Does this mean NASCAR is headed for a split? Let's talk about it. All right, so here is the scoop from Adam Stern, friend of the channel from the Sports Business Journal. NASCAR teams are planning to collectively not show up to today's Team Owner Council meeting with NASCAR, per sources. A symbolic boycott because they feel that new revenue talks are not progressing. And here's some additional details from Jenna Fryer of the Associated Press over on Twitter. As is well known, the teams are demanding a better financial model and do not feel that NASCAR is negotiating in good faith. It is my understanding that the ownership group wants Jim France and Lisa France Kennedy at the negotiating table. NASCAR themselves put out a statement right after this news broke. This also comes from Adam Stern. NASCAR is committed to an open and productive dialogue on a regular basis with all its industry stakeholders. We remain committed to continuing discussions and in the spirit of collaboration and with the shared goal of growing our sport for the benefit of all our stakeholders. I feel like I've been saying for years and years and years and years up until this point that this NASCAR TV deal that's coming up is going to be one of the most important in shaping the landscape of American motorsports for the coming generation. You have to consider how much money is at stake here. I believe I saw, it was Jenna that reported this, that the current TV deal is about $8.2 billion over the course of the contract, which I believe was signed in 2015, went into effect in 2016, and continues through the end of this year. And, you know, I'd always heard the number that it was about $500 million per year from each of the TV partners. So, $500 million from NBC, $500 million from Fox, $1 billion essentially per year from the TV contract to NASCAR in NASCAR's pockets. And when you compare that to other racing series, I mean, think about this for a second. IndyCar's TV deal has been reported quite a few times. Adam Stern has been one of the best at reporting this stuff as around $20 million per year from NBC. $20 million per year for IndyCar, a full season. Mike Joy recently talked about one single NASCAR Cup Series race costing the network $20 million to put on. Okay? As far as I can tell, that's an unsustainable business model for the TV partners. Now, it's true. NASCAR Man pointed this out when I brought this up on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, is that the TV partners lost $100 million in 2001 on NASCAR racing coverage. I think the difference between, do I need to state the differences between NASCAR now and NASCAR in 2001? I think the TV partners were willing to lose money because there was a return on investment that could be seen. What's happening right now with NASCAR? The TV ratings are, let's be honest, going in the toilet. Is NASCAR in a better position from a TV rating standpoint than any other series in the United States, including Formula One? Of course it is. I don't think anyone is denying that right now. I think I said it yesterday. The NASCAR Cup Series race on cable tripled the IndyCar TV rating at Texas on network television, right? So NASCAR is definitely in a position to get hundreds of millions of dollars for their next TV partnership. There's no doubt about it. Are they going to get $8.2 billion over 8 years again? I would be highly skeptical of that. The TV market, the TV landscape is changing rapidly. TV numbers aren't just declining because Zoomers and millennials are cutting the cord. There's a lot of different factors for that. I think part of it as well is that NASCAR's fan base is literally dying off. Like IndyCar and NASCAR, you see their TV ratings dip, and I think the big reason for that is they have a geriatric fan base. Now, they support television, which is good for TV partners, But long term, that's where I think the TV partners are going to start getting shaky. Streaming numbers for things that are available commercially on television are terrible. There's a reason you never hear about Peacock numbers for like when IndyCar does their exclusive race on Toronto, or when IMSA has, half of the 12 hours of Sebring on Peacock. They never publicly talk about that. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why when you hear the TV numbers come out that they say, well, yeah, we included streaming and that we still dropped for 100,000 people, right? The market is changing so fast right now. And a lot of these legacy deals, I mean, even at the time, you could see that NASCAR, 2015, 2016, you could see the decline. I mean, I remember it. I was making videos about it at the time. For whatever reason, the TV partners didn't see that, and they signed a huge deal with NASCAR. And as far as I can tell, they probably have been taking a bath on NASCAR coverage for a very long time. So what does that mean? That means they're going to go to NASCAR and say, we're going to pay you, let's say, instead of $1 billion a year, we're going to pay you collectively between Fox and NBC, we're going to pay you $250 million each, so you're going to have $500 million of TV money. That's probably worst case scenario, by the way. I would be surprised if it was under $500 million, meaning $500 million per year for NASCAR. I still think they're probably worth that. And again, that's worst case scenario. It may be like 800. But regardless, there's cuts coming. And the way NASCAR currently works is that the TV money subsidizes many of the tracks and many of the events. There's a reason NASCAR's has been, over the last couple of years, experimenting with street course racing, experimenting with dirt racing, experimenting with going back to North Wilkesboro, which is something that we wouldn't have ever thought a couple of years ago. It's because right now they have to figure out what events are going to be sustainable because there's going to be less money and closing tracks, right? Chicago, right-sizing Fontana. Why do you think they just sold Fontana for $500 million when they probably could have done it whenever they wanted to? Because they're going to need money. They see the storm a brewing. We just don't know how bad that storm is going to be that NASCAR is going to have to weather. And that's where the team owners come in and why the team owners are boycotting this meeting right now. Because as we know, sponsorship in NASCAR is declining. Actual consumer sponsorship. You look at any other motorsport, NASCAR still has the most consumer-based sponsors of any racing series out there. I mean, bar none. But you look at where the trends are heading. It's all business to business. It's all funded drivers. It's not a lot of your craft. It's not a lot of your Target stores. It's not a lot of your Miller Lite. It's not a lot. It's, blue chip tech companies. It's companies that want to, gussy up to Toyota or Ford or Chevy or want to go, get up close next to Verizon. They're not companies that are necessarily looking at the people in the grandstands, not necessarily looking at the TV numbers, because from a business model perspective, it seems like auto racing is pursuing sponsors that do not care so much about the TV numbers because that's the only thing that's going to sustain them. That hurts the fans, of course, but it also hurts the team owners. The team owners, I think, want a bigger slice of that pie. I think they want the deal that the tracks currently have, which is that they would be directly subsidized by NASCAR. Kind of similar to what IndyCar does with the leader circle, where each team gets $1 million or so. I think it's like $1.2 million right now each season just for participating in the full season. I'm sure the charter teams want to do this. I've been saying this for a while. At the minute I heard about a race team alliance, the charter system, if you were not thinking kart, I don't know what I can tell you. The fact that Chip Ganassi and Roger Penske were involved in the RTA, obviously Chip has since sold his team, but this ain't Roger's first rodeo with this sort of thing. And I'm not saying that Roger's the one pulling the strings, but I think that we've seen this story a few times before. And it usually ends with someone storming out of a boardroom meeting, kind of like this, and saying, can we get a better deal than NASCAR can get for us? And the minute that that happens, then we're talking about breakaway series, we're talking about splits, we're talking about upset fan bases, and in turn upset sponsors, upset tracks, and a Wild West that we have not seen since the kart IRL split. Now for NASCAR, I'm just going to say this, if anyone from NASCAR is listening, which they're not, but do everything you can to prevent this. You don't want this path. You don't want to go down this path. This is a very, very slippery slope. Because while NASCAR has 3 million viewers right now, are people going to be tuning in to a NASCAR race when, let's say, 20% of the drivers that participate are racing in another series? I mean, a lot of people have pointed out, and we'll have to see when he comes back, but the Chase Elliott effect on TV ratings. Well, what happens if you lost Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, and a few other big names? And oh, by the way, they're racing on CBS right now in the Cars Tour, or SRX. That would be a huge problem for stock car racing. Now, by the same token, it could be a good rebirth too. What's to say that a breakaway series wouldn't have stages? Wouldn't have playoffs? Would have cars that kind of remind us of the good old days? I don't know. That could be kind of cool. But I think the biggest thing I see here is that this will lead to killing the golden goose if they let this get out of hand. They've been slow bleeding it. There's no doubt about it. But it is still, NASCAR, to a certain extent, is a license to print money right now. I see this, if it gets out of hand, as being the license being revoked, so to speak. So, yeah, sound the alarm bells, because when money's involved, things get messy. And there might be a lot less money involved than previously anticipated. And that means things may be going downhill very, very quickly. As you know, we'll be on top of this as things continue. Hope you've enjoyed my thoughts. If you did, subscribe for more motorsport content, and I'll see you in the next video.